Want to know how this ends? Stick around.
So it's actually an unofficial Strava race today.
Yeah. I'm not racing you guys, but I'm there. Beer bottles. Hey, how's it going? Good. Okay, so today I get to ride Skirt Ridge at Bear Mountain, Victoria, BC. It's the first time I've ridden this trail and it's super chunky. Had a lot of fun, but my main purpose of coming here was to test out this Rocky Mountain Instinct Alloy A50 BC edition. So I'm used to riding the Pipeline, which is 140 front and back and 27.5 wheels. It's the exact same frame, but this Instinct here has 29-inch wheels and 160 up front, 155 in the rear. It definitely took a little while getting used to the difference between this setup versus the one I'm used to. So I did receive a warning about this part of the trail. There is a gap drop right here with a super sketchy run in. So it definitely felt nice to have a little bit more travel, 160, 155. Nice. But I was really struggling to handle this bike. It's the perfect size for me. I am 5'8" and this is a medium. But just with the 29s, I'm really struggling to lean this bike into the turns.
That is chunky.
On the straights though, this is where it excels. It just flies over everything, and I'm finding myself having to grab the brakes quite a lot. It's got SRAM RE, which is intended for use on the electric bikes with 203 rotors, so it's got great stopping power. I still think Shimano is better, just because it's more reactive. It just feels, I'm just used to the Shimano stuff, so I definitely prefer it. The SRAM here just feels a little squishy, but nevertheless still stops really well.
Wow.
So despite the fact that it's the first weekend in March, we still have a bit of snow here. We had some late snow and some cold temperatures, keeping the snow hanging around for a bit too long.
Oh yeah. Is it steep? Steep shoot?
One section is.
Yeah.
It's not crazy.
Okay.
It's like a 6 out of 10 maybe.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Oh, dude, this shoot? Yeah, this shoot's gnarly. It's on a
I love how everyone's opinion is slightly different on stuff. Have fun.
So I just met Keegan here. Check out his channel at the end of the video. Him and his wife were so kind and gave us shuttle rides all morning.
Great for speed, but not, they're just chunky, dude. Alright, I'm with ya. 29's clear that stuff pretty good though. Right. There's the gnarly chute. Whew. That is nah. That's crazy. Nice. Picked up a hook. Nice. Nice. Is that in the race, that log ride?
So I do love 29-inch wheels, and this bike is perfect for somebody that is looking to rip trails as fast as possible and has a bit of upper body strength and is maybe a little bit bigger. I have actually heard from some smaller folk that they prefer this Instinct to the Altitude, but my personal preference is the Altitude. I'm just enjoying the 27.5s a little bit more. And yeah, just getting used to these 29s is a little bit too much of a learning curve at this moment in time. So very capable bike though. The alloy version here that I'm riding here is obviously a lot heavier than the carbon Instinct. I did totally love riding the carbon Instinct with 140 travel.
Oh.
But on this one it just feels a little bit cumbersome, maybe because of the extra weight from the alloy.
I wasn't going fast enough.
But at the end of this morning's test ride, we did about 5 different laps here, and yeah, I'm going to settle for the 27.5. I'm not going to convert my pipeline to a 29 just yet. I'm enjoying the 27.5s way more, just for the ease of throwing it around and not having to wrestle that front wheel around corners.
That is bumpy. Is this the right way? Yeah.
So for full disclosure, I must explain that I'm not tubeless here. I am running tubes because it's a rental bike. And back on the Minions, DHF and DHR. And after running the Michelins for such a long time on my bike, I find that I way prefer the Michelins, much more grip. They hook up way better, and so that's maybe why I'm having some further issues on this bike too. As for suspension setup, I dialed it as best I could in the short amount of time, but obviously whenever you're testing out a bike, you can't give it 100% review until you've ridden it a few times and changed the suspension to setup. So something you've always got to consider when test riding a bike is that suspension dialed perfectly for you, and could you make it better with a bit of time?
Nice. Nice.
Go ahead or what? Go. No, you know the way. All right.
Go ahead.
Holy fucking hell.
yeah.
One small observation is that I really do like the race face dropper lever. It's the race face dropper post, which is technically the same as the transfer, but the lever definitely felt a little bit different, and I liked how it worked. Having the bike set up a little bit higher with the BB further off the ground definitely made a difference too. Didn't notice any pedal strokes throughout this whole morning, whereas I ended up with them quite a lot on my pipeline with the 27.5s.
Yeah! Oh, jeez.
So as you can see here, my front wheel lost grip and then hit that root, and off I went.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I just slipped out on the front of the rock. We're all good though. On the easy bit. Jesus, that's always the way.
So looking back at that, I think combination of poor suspension setup, tyre pressures with tubes, and getting used to 29s.
Fucking 20 meters.
So with a bit more time on the bike, I'd probably get used to the 29s. It's just a different mindset, trying to get used to the way it handles. I think due to the size of this bike, the carbon version would be a better option due to the weight. It's a bit cumbersome to move this guy around, but a super capable bike, plenty of travel, stopping power is great if you're used to the SRAM, and for $5,000 Canadian, you cannot fault it. Thanks for joining me for the ride. I hope you had a good time. If you did, please press like and subscribe.
Oh yeah, that was fun.